Team skills for process improvement. Unit 1 of 8, Building Effective Teams. Part 6 of 7. Traditional organizational structure. Currently, most of our organizations look similar to this chart. We have senior leaders at the top and various functional departments reporting up to them. Organizations are structured vertically by function, even though most of the business processes occur horizontally across the organization. In real life, very few processes stand alone or are self-contained within one vertical department. There are multiple layers of management between the organization leader and the employee actually providing goods and services to customers. This chart very clearly shows lines of authority reaching down through the organization. What doesn't it show? The traditional organization chart doesn't show what the organization does or processes, who it does it for, or customers, or who it does it with, like suppliers. While this hierarchy is a highly effective way to transmit information from the top down, it is not always the best way to organize for quality and productivity. A structure organized by function reduces the sense of ownership felt by employee because the horizontal flow of the work process is managed vertically by the functional departments in the organization. The job of senior managers in an organization should not be to manage the boxes. They already have managers in them. Their critical responsibility is to manage the interfaces between functional units, the white spaces between the boxes, in order to keep things from falling between the cracks. Bureaucratic hierarchies. What are the characteristics of bureaucratic structures? Number one, top-down communication. The hierarchical organization provides a very efficient structure for top-down communication. In theory, this organizational structure should also be a very efficient way to communicate from the bottom up. But this is not the case. One-way communication is institutionalized because bureaucratic hierarchy also serves as a control structure, with persons of higher rank and authority being placed higher in the structure. This authority structure tends to reinforce one-way communication. Number two, reduced sense of process ownership. A process can become artificially fragmented when such a structure is imposed on a process. This happens when managers think of themselves as managing a function rather than a process that produces a product or service for customers. Likewise, the workers tend to lose the sense of ownership of the product that reaches the customer and only feel responsible for those characteristics that are associated with their functional area. Number three, impediments to system improvement. Imposition of a functional management structure can greatly reduce process efficiency because a lot can be lost in the white space. As communications are reduced between functions, the system is suboptimized. To improve system performance, processes must be managed and all processes must work together. Number four, we versus they thinking. Downstream problems can frequently be traced to preceding stages in the process. Often, the upstream supplier does not know the needs of the downstream customer. These needs can't be easily communicated when workers are both physically and organizationally separated. This separation often leads to factionalism and we versus they thinking that further reduces communication. Ironically, this can occur when both the upstream and downstream workers are doing their best. Doing one's best in this scenario does not produce the results that might be achieved by communicating and working together. Number 5, increased costs of supervision. Historically, supervision was based on the idea that individual employees were limited in their knowledge of the whole process and therefore could not make decisions on workflow. A supervisor would oversee their work from both a quality and a process flow standpoint. The concept of span of control grew out of the fact that a supervisor could do this for only a few employees. The concept of span of control led naturally to compensation systems based on the number of employees supervised. Such a compensation scheme does little to encourage improvements in processes or allow qualified employees to exercise autonomy in their work. Instead, it encourages proliferation of tasks that may add no value to the process and can increase the number of employees. This, in turn, increases the cost of management and supervision. The number of employees supervised often determines civil service grade levels and whether or not a job is considered a leadership position. Unfortunately, many people in supervisory or leadership positions consider this strategy a legitimate one for advancement, thus encouraging empire building and the creation of rice balls. Number 6, reduced flexibility to respond. Bureaucratic structures are rigid. Leaders spend much of their time trying to enforce accountability through the structure instead of through the process. They try to assign functional accountability when the problem could be at the interface of the functions. Then attempts to improve the process can become stifled and persevering upon the management structure. For example, planners only plan, engineers only engineer, even though the product is a function of both and the function is not simply an additive one. When the process requires attention, as in a planned improvement, the structure lacks the required flexibility. So, what is the answer? What do we do if we want to improve processes and meet customer needs? We must change the way we are organized.